It's amazing. I just read an official blueprint that was printed by Time magazine exposing the conspiracy that has gone on behind the powerful interests that connected together to rob Donald Trump of his election victory. You're going to want to read this. It's a powerful article. In fact, I cover it for you right here in this broadcast. So before we go there, I want to make sure that you all have access to a new chapter I've got for you this week. It's the chapter on the civic religion, the one that is persecuting the church right now. It's a government religion of social justice. It's a new way of seeing the battle that we're in. Go to lancewallnau.com and you can get that free chapter. And make sure that you like and subscribe to this page. Whatever platform you're seeing me on, make sure you like and subscribe so that you can be notified of the next news update. Now let's go into this powerful revelation of the shadow government game. All right, so we have this document that is right in front of us, and the depth that is here is scary. I mean, it's scary because look at the elements that they have working together. In his apartment in the D.C. suburbs, Podhorzer began working from his laptop at the kitchen table, holding back-to-back Zoom meetings for hours a day with his network of contacts across the progressive universe. And who are the elements of this conspiring to shift an election? The labor movement, the institutional left, Planned Parenthood, and Greenpeace. Resistant groups like Indivisible and MoveOn.org, progressive data geeks and strategists, representatives of donors and their moneyed foundations, state-level grassroots organizers, and racial justice activists and others, which I assume is the Black Lives Matter and Antifa representatives. And so in April, Podhorzer began hosting a weekly 2.5-hour Zoom structured around a series of rapid-fire 5-minute presentations on everything from which ads were working to how to message the local strategy. The invitation-only gatherings soon attracted hundreds, creating a rare shared base of knowledge for the fractious progressive movement. What I'm trying to say is that in the organizational space, in the political space, in the litigation and shifting the election ballot law space, they were playing chess at a rapid level. And folks, let me be honest with you. I got my kinds of people when they were doing Zoom calls, I was with a whole lot of nervous evangelicals, and they were doing prayer calls. And what they would do is prayer calls, night and day prayer calls, which gets to be kind of frustrating because after all that prayer, if you don't win, you're a little bit disillusioned about what the message is. Some of our team continue believing that, well, Donald Trump is going to emerge again, kind of like a second coming sometime in the next 6 months or a year. But clearly, that's a delusional hope. The reality is we don't understand the depth of the mechanism and the work that goes in to the way of shifting a national election. Now, I know some of you want to just oversimplify it and say, oh, it's the software. It's the software. I'm telling you something. What this article reveals is that it was a full court press. They had all oars in the water, and it's like an octopus. There's multiple things going on, from media to lawsuits to the political gamesmanship taking over the sheriff's office. You heard that earlier. That's the next level. They got the state, what is it, the attorney, who's the guy that certifies the electors, Mercedes?
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State's, right. And the legislators were being intimidated. So what I'm trying to tell you is an assortment of Zuckerberg's initiative chipped in $300 million for these drop boxes that you could put your ballots in that had no supervision on them whatsoever, no surveillance, and there was like a 80% saturation of Democrat territory with drop boxes, and one every 10 miles out there in Republican territory. Every aspect of this thing was thought through, and I get the impression that Donald Trump, almost all by himself, was the lone gladiator in the arena, literally with the arena meetings, with his, as long as he had Twitter, then he gets, taken silence by the Gestapo. But it was like him alone. And then when push came to shove, I understand your frustration. I just got done reading you all these legislators that we won and this and that. But I know I'm thinking like you in the back of my head, where were they when it came to challenging the electoral integrity of those electors? Where were they when it came to standing with the actual battle that Giuliani and the legal team was going through to try to get the evidence out there for public debate and view? They weren't there. So on the other hand, they are on our side, but we will have to engage them and let them know that we're the ones that put them in office. The point I'm making is that when you look at the braggadocious disclosure of the mechanisms that work together, right on down to, which everybody ought to know, the better, what is it, behind the scenes, the business community, get this, was engaged in its own discussions. The summer's racial justice protests sent a signal to business owners, the potential for economy disrupting civil disorder. Now, this is amazing. With what they reveal here is after they jump all over the Trump people on January 6th, which at best was, it looks to me like a mingled phenomena, whatever was going on there. And there were people there that, for all I know, they may not have even been Trump people. And there certainly were dumb Trump people that were there. But it was so unsophisticated and poorly done in terms of like how it was executed, that it didn't match the sophistication of 4 months worth of cities in turmoil. And so what I want you to catch here is that they had planned the activism and protests in the streets if Trump had won. They actually have it all written out. They had planned 400 locations where they were going to raise hell, and they already had the activists on hold in the event that they needed to make a public display of outrage that Trump was stealing the election in the event that Trump won.
Yep.
So think about that. That was all there while they're self-righteously talking about January 6th. They organized 400 January 6th all over the country. But you're not hearing that. But they just brag about it. They brag about it because they said it took a lot of discipline to hold them back. They were ready to go. But we said, wait. I think we've succeeded. Don't show your hand.
All
Mercedes,
right.
I'm not making this up.
I didn't know if you were going to take a breath. I was worried. I was like, is he going to breathe? Take a breath.
All right, I'm stopping.
All right,
I'm stopping. But I'm excited about this.
Well, we only have 4 minutes left in the show. So I think it's aptly named Shadow Campaign. Who would have thought? And Lance said octopus earlier. It made me think this is like Hail Hydra level stuff. But I want to read you 2 quotes from it. One, right up the front of it, it says, there was a conspiracy unfolding behind the scenes, one that both curtailed the protests and coordinated the resistance from CEOs. Both surprises were the result of an informal alliance between left-wing activists and business titans. I mean, we lived it, you guys. Here's a full confession right here. And why are they making the confession? Why is it important to write a 16-page document, a 38-minute read? Right here, they said right here, there's an impulse for some to say voters decided and democracy won. But it's a mistake to think that this election cycle was a show of strength for democracy. It shows how vulnerable democracy is. This Times article is a play-by-play expose of how coordinated, like you heard in the video from Bannon's show, how coordinated the left was between media, big business, and activist groups. And until people understand, like Lance was talking about, even Christians, it's like, Jesus says, I'm sending you out as sheep among wolves. Therefore, be as cunning as serpents, but as gentle as doves. And we've got the sheep and the dove part down, but we are not nearly as cunning as this. And until we understand that, and we start coordinating with like the Scott Pressers of the world and the Steve Bannons of the world, and we build our own network like this, we're going to keep losing.
Now, I do have one more thing to say about
That's all right.
this.
You
I
can
have
have the
to
rest.
say this because I want to quote this. I don't want you thinking I'm making this up. So the summer uprisings had shown the people that people power could have a massive impact, an intimidating impact. Activists began preparing to reprise the demonstrations if Trump tried to steal the election. Notice, he couldn't win it. They would say he stole it. Americans plan widespread protests if Trump interferes with the election, Reuters reported. Now, get this. More than 150 liberal groups, from the Women's March to the Sierra Club to Color of Change, from Democrats.com to the Democratic Socialists of America, joined the Protect the Results Coalition. These guys have more organizations, more lawyers, more shell. It's like a shell game, trying to figure out who's doing what. But get this, the group's now defunct website had a map listing 400 planned post-election demonstrations. You could read like riot disruptions to be activated via text messaging, no doubt on Twitter, as soon as November 4th came around. To stop the coup, they feared. The left was ready to flood the streets. So the AFL-CIO and the Chamber of Commerce, which I'm sorry to say, Mercedes, I thought the Chamber of Commerce was like pro-enterprise, like pro-small business. Do you know the official Chamber of Commerce is actually like the pro-immigration lobby? They've been taken over by the Democrats on the left. This is like a fact. So the AFL-CIO and the Chamber, who theoretically have this long history of antagonism, actually totally agreed on getting rid of Trump. Isn't that a surprise? Surprise. And so they began to plead, accept the results, accept the results. Let's just not have. What were they afraid of? They were afraid of an uprising. Mercedes, people can follow you and keep in touch with your stellar wit and insight by what social media handle?
Sure, and my unique humor that not everybody gets, but I'm at Follow Sadie's on all social media. So Facebook, all of that. And I want to also say, Lance, in our book, we give away this chapter called The New Religion, and it's all about how the left has turned itself into a religion, and we do a side-by-side. And so that's at lancewallnau.com if you want that free chapter.
By all means, you want to go there and grab that. And I'm looking forward to getting to, we had so much we didn't get to cover this week because it's like an archaeological dig of things to work through. But I'm loving this audience and love this program. We're going to be back again next week, Mercedes Sparks and Lance Wallnau, looking at the top issues. I'll be looking for you then.
As a pandemic wreaks havoc and angry mobs burn our cities, Lance Wallnau explains why this is happening and takes you into the ancient text he describes as God's Chaos Code. This is the exciting sequel to Lance's best-selling book, God's Chaos Candidate, where he predicted Donald Trump would be president. God's Chaos Code predicts this exact moment in history and what is coming next.
When you're in the midst of shaking and uncertainty, the one thing that can give you confidence is knowing what God has said about the time that you're in. If the Lord tells you ahead of time what's going to happen, you can be certain things are going to be working out. The Lord has given us that code in the Bible. He's told us what's coming in America, what's coming to the nations. He's literally given us the chaos code. We can understand what's happening and be awakened in the midst of it. You need to understand and get this chaos code.
You need to know the code. Order God's Chaos Code now at godschaoscode.com.